Good morning.
Goedemorgen. Good morning.
Goedemorgen.
Dobro utro.
Guten Morgen. Dobro utro.
Dobrotov.
Buenos dias.
Aloha.
Aloha. So it's a little slow. There's nobody shows up there yet. There's a little red thing. It just takes a minute for it to show up that anybody's here. Are you looking at us?
Not yet.
But you're trying to. Is that what you're doing, or are you checking your Facebook messages?
Oh, now it says you're live.
Mm-hmm.
And there we are. You can see us?
Yep.
There.
Okay. Rojo is there. Well, that means we got two Rojos.
Good.
We got a Rojo there, and we have a Rojo over there.
She says hi.
Hi. Hi, Rojo.
Hi.
So, somebody else is there, but we don't know who yet. Type hi in the box or something, and so we know who's there. This thing is weird. Sometimes it says, as soon as you join, it puts a name up there that says join. Let's not do that.
Hi, Nelly.
I was about to say Nelly, I thought, but I didn't. I thought, no, I won't try to do that. But
Hi, Matias.
Matias is there. Hi, Matias. Now we've got all three. Now we got Rojo and Nelly and Matias. And usually it starts out slow when we're doing it.
Yeah. So let's take off.
Let's take off. We were going to take off and talk about tapas.
Yes.
Training the senses. And so we're training the senses to be let go of sensory expectation about what things are going to do, etc. So what do you want to talk about tapas? I asked her last week, what do you want to talk about next week? She said tapas.
Not as this is a continuous conversation, but in the previous days, a few things have been popping up like pratyahara, and we've been having topics, some of us have talked about santosh, and so I thought all that bringing together is leading towards, those are two components, and that's all about the senses and their training. So that made me think of tapas. So that's why I thought maybe today we can say something about tapas.
We can say something about tapas. Hi, Raj. Raj is there.
Hi.
Hi, Sriram.
Because santosh is the niyama that's before tapas, and it may sound like santosh is the goal of the practices, but with santosh actually training of the senses can take off really, because then
the principle, one of these things,
of course they work all together, but there is an order to it.
If you try to literally train your senses and you don't already have some degree of a state of contentment, tapas is food. Tapas is sometimes called food. But
little bites to eat.
Little bites.
Little tapas bars. You have them. Susan would know that too. Continue.
Susan would know that?
She just joined. Susan allowed to join. She's on.
Oh, Susan must know about tapas, huh? About little things you eat?
Yeah,
I had never heard of that until I was walking. We were walking down the street in Santiago, Chile, and there was went by a place that said tapas. And I said, wow, isn't that cool? There must be a yoga school here.
No, there isn't.
I had never heard of that usage of the word tapas as being a place where you get small bites of food.
Spanish word.
Well, whatever. I didn't know it in that way.
She knows about tapas.
So, yeah, well,
Nelly knows.
Everybody knows. I'm just slow. It just took me into my 60s before I ever heard the word. I'm slow, but I get there. I'm not the tortoise and the hare. The hare, the rabbit gets there quickly, but the turtle just kind of. I'm more the turtle. So There's Helen. Hi, Helen.
And Scott joined. Popular in the pubs to have some
Popular
tapas.
in the pubs, yes. I guess I've probably had tapas years ago and never knew it. I thought it was just sort of bar snacks or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I was starting to say was you have to have some degree, a pretty good degree of contentment, of santosh, to be able to do what tapas is about.
Yeah.
The word tapas literally means fire. And note what happens when you're trying to change a habit, any habit, whatever the habit is. You're accustomed to doing so-and-so over and over and over, maybe every day at the same time. Maybe it's the habit of going to the pub and having a few beers and eating some tapas snacks. Maybe that's your habit. But notice what happens when you change a behavior. We all know this and we have different life stories, but notice what happens when you stop an old habit. It's not easy sometimes, is it? And this is tapas. This is fire. There is an emotional fire that occurs in changing habits. Whether it's an attitude habit in relation to other people, in family and friends and social life, or political views, or something like a food, or the beer at the pub, or cigarette smoking, or chocolate.
What about chocolate?
Did you hear that? What about chocolate?
Don't touch my chocolate.
Don't touch my chocolate. There's some chocolate over there. I stole one. I stole a piece.
That's good. When it's there, it's for common good. Nothing in the ashram is.
It disappeared for a couple days, though. A couple days ago, I was walking to the store, and she said, "Are you going to bring me a treat or something like that?" And so I went to the store, and I got two, not one, but two chocolate bars. And I gave them to her. She opened one of them. I did not eat one of those.
Because it's part of Yoga Sutra stages of clashes that sometimes just to remove yourself from it. So one I strategically put in a place that
and
not
the other one she hid
from everyone, including myself.
Except you knew where it was.
Yeah, but it's such a strategic place that I even forget sometimes
that you put it there. Well, anyway, she forgot it. But notice what happens when you change any habit. There is an internal emotional response that is not wanting to do that.
Doesn't want to die.
Doesn't want to die. The desire doesn't want to die. It says, no, we've been doing this for a long time. I've been eating my chocolate for a long time. Or if you saw it, Rojo did another food video a little while ago. Oh, what?
It's really dirty, your glasses.
I know. I'll wash them in a little bit. I'm going to go put soap on them. Yeah. And wash them.
That's a different way of...
But that's getting them really clean.
Purifying your senses.
Yes, this is tapas of the glasses. Now, what was I saying? It was something...
Food.
Yeah.
Changing food habits.
Yeah, and so Rojo just made a video this morning, put it in the group. You may have seen it. If not, take a look at it. It's pretty good. And she's talking about changing food habits. But why did I mention that?
Because if you change, there's some fire.
Yeah, there's a thing that we don't want to give it up. Coming to mind is she was talking about olive oil. And she was talking about her own habit of eating olive oil. Now, she didn't talk about tapas with it, but it's another good example. So if you say, well, I have been using oils to cook my food for years, and now, okay, here's this thing that says I'm going to give it a try to cook without those oils. At first, the mind, doesn't want to do it. That's what I was remembering this morning. She was talking about herself and changing some food habits over the last few years and not wanting to do it and resistant. The doctor in her, she was resisting all of this research from these leading research people saying, what constitutes healthy food and what's not healthy, and she didn't want to believe it. Now, that's my watch the thing, but she doesn't use the word tapas, but that's actually what she's describing as herself. That even the physician in her, and one of the things she said in the video, she said, they didn't teach us that in medical college. And she's got, when she tells the story there's a little bit of an attitude there. Well, it's that attitude that going ahead and saying, I have an attitude that this is wrong and I don't want to do that way, I want to keep using my olive oil, but then recognizing that, wait a minute, the research says something else, and I'll go along with it. I'll start to train myself in how to cook without oil, and there is an emotional resistance to it. And that resistance, again, whether it's olive oil or attitudes in a relationship, or chocolate.
And indeed, it's part of self-preservation, Scott is asking.
Yes, it's self-preservation. Why self-preservation? Good point, Scott. Thank you for typing that in there. Because we could actually say it's sort of like not self-preservation. But it's the not self that we have become identified with. We become identified with all manner of things. Oops, who said oops?
I said oops.
You said oops. Hi, Chris. And so we become identified with them, and then we want to preserve them. We want to keep it alive. We want to keep that identity alive. And so this was the thing I was saying that Rojo was talking about this morning, was both in terms of her as an individual person not wanting to give up some of these foods for the benefit of her health, and also the self-preservation part of her as a person who's gone through medical college and training. Well, they didn't teach us any of this there, and so yet embarked on making some changes. And there is an emotional response to that, and that is like fire. That emotional response can be likened to fire. We've all gone through it in one way or another, or many ways in life. If we're doing sadhana, if we're learning meditation, all this stuff that we keep doing, we've definitely, I don't think anybody has even attempted to do meditation without encountering this firestorm. It's like a firestorm. And so what is tapas? Tapas is the emotional response to riding out the storm. We're in a hurricane area here, and when a hurricane comes through, you just ride out the storm. You ride through the storm. Very, very strong winds and pelting rain and, trees falling down and like that. So what do? You ride out the storm. And the emotional fire of riding through the storm is tapas. Now you have to do this at those surface level, at those gross levels of purifying body and mind, so that you can later do pratyahara. Pratyahara of the 8 rungs of Ashtanga Yoga. Pratyahara is rung 5. I'm counting the thumb, see, like this. And tapas is the 3rd niyama. The niyamas are rung number 2, and there's 5 of them, and tapas is the 3rd of the 5 niyamas. So in a sense, that's back here. And up here, number 5 is pratyahara. Well, pratyahara is the part where you succeed in literally setting aside the outside world so that you can sit quietly in meditation, and your body is now comfortable with sitting still. You have let go of the karmendriya of motion. The body wants to move. It wants to do things. It wants to pick up the piece of chocolate. It wants to do something. It sure as hell doesn't want to sit here and meditate or anything like that. Hi, Adi. And so if we think that we're going to withdraw our senses, in pratyahara, the 5th of the 8 rungs, and we say, I'm having a little trouble, oh, teacher, I'm having trouble withdrawing my senses. I'm working on it. I'm working at it. And what we end up doing is struggling, saying, if I get silly with my animation, it's like, I'm going to withdraw my senses. Okay, I'm going to sit still. You see, I'm sitting still. And you see, I'm holding my body tight so that it won't move.
Yeah.
Something wrong with that picture. Well, what happened? We accidentally, we're nice people, we're wonderful people, we're smart, But sometimes we don't understand the sequence of this stuff and we skip over it. So we have skipped tapas. We have skipped those early preparation things. So when it's time to do pratyahara, and I'm going to force my body to be still, you see, and now I'm going to withdraw my senses. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to get earplugs or earphone things. I'm going to cover my ears up and I'm going to cover my eyes. And this is called pratyahara. No, it's not called pratyahara. If we skip over the early parts, then when it's time in our practice sequence to actually do pratyahara, it ends up becoming a battle. And tapas is learning to ride through the storm, the emotional storm of training the senses. And if we try to skip over that, then it stays with us, and we then wonder, years, or I've seen it go decades later, and still saying, what the hell's wrong with my meditation? I'm doing something's off here. This is a bad tradition. I'm going to leave this tradition. I'm going to go over to Guru so-and-so. They will fix me up. And so this is one of the ways that we keep tradition hopping. We keep guru hopping, going to go buy another book. You got another book. I need a better book on how to do meditation. And quite by accident, just quite by accident, it's so easy to skip over. So the tapas, the ability to ride through the emotional storm, to be able to do that, we have to understand that what we're trying to do is wean ourselves off of our sensory involvements. What do people do with their phones? You got a phone. It's supposed to be, old day, you used the phone would ring, you'd say hello, and you'd have a conversation. Or you wanted to talk to somebody, you'd call on the phone, you'd have your conversation, you hung up the phone, and then you went on with your life. We don't do that anymore. Now we're walking around. Look at, you're walking around. You see, you go in a public place and there's 10 people there and everybody's sitting there texting one another. Or they're playing Pokemon, this game. They're walking around, like this. There's a restaurant parking lot beside us here. We've walked by there before and seen 5, 6 people outside, and they're all standing there doing like this, and it looks like they're playing Pokemon. Mm-hmm. How about your Facebook page and your email account? There's people that do surveys on, I don't remember the numbers. How often do you check your Facebook page? I'm not being down on checking Facebook page. I do it myself because there's so much interaction with people like that. But do people ever find themselves having trouble getting out of bed in the morning to go to work because they were up until 2 o'clock in the morning Facebooking? Does this sound familiar? This is, you could say, it's a strong word, it's addiction to Facebook. And how do we engage with Facebook? With our eyes and with our ears and with our hands and with our fingers. Whether it's my cell phone or the, laptop or desktop computer. We are using the indriyas. We are using the senses. Okay, yes, it's about Facebook or it's about Pokemon or the machine or some other something. Or we're caught into the television. We're watching stuff late night. We're up late, and we all know that how easy it is to get entangled in these things.
And they're not the bad guys. It's the lack of the training.
Yeah, it's habit. It just becomes we have the habit of using our indriyas. Yeah. So in a sense, what we are attached to, in some sense, said as a yogi, it's not that we're attached to the television. It's not that we're attached to the to the Pokemon. It's not that we're attached to all the texting that people are doing constantly. It's not even that we're really attached to the Facebook. What we're attached to, we come to see, is the indriyas themselves. We like using our jnanendriyas and our karmendriyas. Our jnanendriyas, jhana is knowledge, it's the cognitive senses. It's smelling, tasting, seeing, touching, and hearing. The karma indriyas, it has the word karma. It's the indriyas of karma, of action. Okay, predominantly motion, grasping, and speaking. Notice how the mind just wants to talk. You say, well, I'm sitting down for meditation. Oh, teacher, how do I get my mind to shut up? It's just constantly, it's a monkey mind. It's just constantly talking. Well, that's the indriyas. And if you're going to train your mind to, even for a minute, suspend its habit of jabbering like that,
It's really hard to do.
it's hard to do. And the resistance to doing that is tapas. It's the fire that says, no, I'm going to use, there's this wonderful little feature on these telephones, if I can find it here to show you. See, there's a little button right there that says clock. There's this beautiful little, it's like these things are made for yogis. There's a little clock on there, and you can set it for 1 minute and play the thing. And so you say, for 1 minute, I'm going to run an experiment. Hello, Ashutosh. There's Yogalanda.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Yogalanda.
Hi, Yolanda.
And there's Debbie
Hey.
Hayes, and I bet maybe she's sitting there with John too. And Gurvinder snuck in. Boy, everybody's sneaking in. I wasn't even paying attention.
You
No,
were busily using your karmendriyas.
I was using my karmendriyas. But this tapas has to do with these indriyas. So it's not just I'm going to plop down on my butt and I'm going to meditate. Oh, in the mind I have a monkey mind. It is tapas. And so if we're going to run an experiment and set our little clock on our machine for 1 minute and say, just internally, I'm going to see if I can sit here and form no words, manufacture no words in my mind. I'm going to see if I can do that for 1 minute. It's a tremendous, tremendous
We can do it.
experiment. We can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do it? All right, you troublemaker, you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have it set on 1 minute. And at the end of 1 minute, it goes twinkle, twinkle, twinkle. It's the twinkle sound on here. Is everybody ready? The game is just for 1 minute, just sit there. It doesn't matter if your eyes are open or closed. That doesn't matter. But internally, try to form no words. And it's not about failure, so if a word comes, it's okay. Don't beat up on yourself. Don't say, okay, well, I screwed up the thing, so now I'll wait for the rest of the minute to be over. Just make note of it internally and just keep going. It's just a game, okay? Don't make this work. See, that's one of the things that's hard about meditation. We turn it into work. I'm going to meditate. No, no, no. This is not meditation. It's a little game. For 1 minute, just try inside to form no words. And watch what the mind does on its own. Okay, is everybody ready? You ready, Mom?
Ready. Scott's ready too.
Scott's ready.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, ready. Ready. Get on your mark. Get set. Go. Okay, that's the end. Where's the stop button? I got it to stop. So, what happened? Fail. Gee, Scott failed. No, it's not failure, Scott. Don't do that, please. Don't say fail. It's just a game.
After I don't know how many seconds, the mind thought, "Oh, it's getting easier than it was."
Oops. Yeah, oops, there it is. Oh, yeah, that's fun. It's getting easier.
It's getting easier.
Just kidding.
Okay.
I knew that. I could tell that.
Yeah.
We knew that. Anybody else? Only Scott played the game? I find that when I do that, when I play that game like that, often what comes is mantra. Mantra starts coming up in there, and I know that mantra is going to run for a while, and then if I sit a little longer with it, then it will fade away to silence.
Because it can get absorbed in.
Yeah,
the
because
meeting.
it falls away.
I kept the mind.
Gurvinda, I kept the mind busy along the spine. Yes, and it's a good thing to do, Gurvinder, but also please just gently make note of this point. If we're still, it's a wonderful thing to do, going up and down the spine. Of course, it's a wonderful thing, and doing Om going up and Om going down, and these practices that we do are all very useful. But make note that if we are still having to use a technique to prevent the mind from talking, just be aware of the fact that if we're doing that, we still have not done the pratyahara. I'm not saying that, don't beat up on yourself over that. This is the way minds work. So the simple idea, what sounds like simple idea of pratyahara, of withdrawing the senses, is just, it's not what the mind wants to do. It wants to talk.
Yeah, so instead of choosing another technique to not
Janet is way beyond all of us. She said it's fairly easy. Well, she's an advanced yogi. Me too. Ready, the last word before we started became my mantra. Ready, 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 ready. I remembered your words come up, just keep going. So there were the words, but after a halfway or so, awareness drifted to ajna. And even, I'll use Raj's sentence there just to make one important point. I don't know what the rest of Raj's time was about, just looking at his words, but it doesn't matter. Awareness drifted to ajna chakra. And hello, Savita. And I would imagine, I'm just guessing, but I would imagine, Raj, that at least for, even if it was only 1 second, as your attention was drifting from wherever it was in this field here, as your attention was drifting here, think back, there was probably 1 or 2 seconds in there where there really, truly was no words. You may have come here and then there may have been some words after that. The reason I'm saying it like this is that it seems to me that the 1 or 2 seconds is the most important part of the 1 minute. Even if there was only 1 or 2 seconds in there where you look and you say, wow, there really were no words going on for 1 or 2 seconds. He said yes. See, that, because I know this because I have a mind too, and that's how minds work. So I'm just saying that the thing of value in terms of this little 1 minute experience, to me, the thing of value is the fact that I know I have a 2-second direct experience of pratyahara in relation to words. Oh my, that's what this is about. So let me not sit here and beat up on myself. Oh, I've been doing this for 20 years and I still can't meditate. Yes, you can. You did it basically for 2 seconds. And then don't worry about it. 2 seconds turns into 3 or 4 or 5 or something. Sri Ram says, does no words imply no thought? Well, the problem with your question, Sri Ram, is you need to now define for me, what do you mean by the word thought? See, it's a tricky thing, because if I say pencil, here is a pencil. Pencil, the syllables pencil is a word. Maybe I should say, I'm going to say pen. I'm going to change it from pencil to pen, because here is a pen. Well, here is a pen. These are 2 different pens. If I say pen, the mantra pen is the same. Pen, pan. The word is the same. The essence of both of them, they are both pens. They have the essence of pan-ness, a thing filled with ink that I can write with. But if I say pan, if I have a thought of pan, and it's a blue pen like this that comes into my mind, it's a particular pen. If this pen came into my mind, it's a particular pen. Well, this particular pen is not the same as this particular pen. And so I'm just saying that you have to ponder, Sri Ram, what do you mean by the phrase, does no words also imply no thought? What do you mean when you say the word thought? And I'm not picking on you. I'm saying this is a part of the yogic principle of analyzing our mind. Don't take my word for it. It's in Yoga Sutras. Patanjali talks about it in chapter 1, somewhere around Sutra 41 or 42. And there they talk about cows. Being aware of being does not need words, right? But most of us, most of the time have being, and we also have words going on, and pens zipping through, and people going through, and activities going through. And pratyahara is the process of suspending all of that so that we can be aware of just being. Janet, you're beyond the rest of us. You know, for you, this is easy. I'm being playful. Because I would imagine that you, from time to time, have the same kind of mind as the rest of us that sometimes does other silly things. But what you're saying is right on track. Being does not need words. But our minds are in the habit of using words, which is what I was trying to basically say to Sri Ram, is to discern when we say no thought, what do we mean by the word thought? Because very often when we say, oh, my mind is thinking, I was thinking, you watch somebody, you watch your friend, a friend, Ma starts gazing off over there, you know, and I said, Ma, what are you doing? She said, I was just thinking.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, thinking, what were you thinking? Well, I don't know, nothing. And for most of us, most of the time when we're off thinking like that, what we're really meaning to say is that I had a string of words going on.
Take me on a train.
It's a train. You heard the phrase, a train of thoughts. And I'm just saying most of the time, the train of thoughts, the biggest aspect of the train is words. And the words are the indriyas.
And yet, indeed, if we mark up another way of holding the word thought, anything that bubbles up from the latent unconscious, yet not being expressed by manas through the karmanya of speech in words, can be labeled also a thought. That's why Swamiji is asking, what do you mean?
But then describe it. What is that? What is that bubbled up?
Yeah, what is that then? And if we hold that as thought, then as a movement in the mind field, then it can be said that no words does not immediately imply no thoughts, because there's still
because there can be a thought. It can be that this thing comes through my mind field, and the word pen does not come with it. It can be like that, but most of the time, for most of us, when it comes from down below, see, it's coming from the unconscious. Here it comes. It's coming from the unconscious. Most of the time, for most of us, it comes like this, and we go, pen, you know, or something like that, you know, or I can go, cell phone, you know. If I had a picture of Matri, I'd hold it up and it'd say, Matri, and there she comes.
Yeah.
But there's a commingling of the essence of the thought and the name of the thought and the particular object itself. Most of the time they come together like that. Yes. And that is a thought. That's
what he says, is most often for me thoughts manifest as words.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to say.
Insight towards how the mind operates.
So the pratyahara, the withdrawal of the indriya of speaking, is a tremendous progress in the direction of getting back, hello Oya, is to getting back to what Janet called being. Yeah. It's tremendous practice. You know, if we just say, okay, I'm going to just click my fingers and empty my mind, and I'm going to be in the state of Turiya, the highest consciousness, I'm going to be self-realized, God-realized, with a click of my fingers. That's not usually very easy to do, isn't it? You know, we think we're going to do that, and then here comes pens and people and stuff and problems of the day, and
I was thinking of your words, empty, 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 from the Yoga Nidra CD.
Yeah.
And they had those, that's a word too. So as long as you say, now I'm going to empty my
well,
mind.
That's the difficult thing about doing, but that's the idea is,
yes.
But note that by the time it says empty, 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 you've already gone through something over 40 minutes of guided practice.
Yes.
So that now you're at a point where you can do empty, empty,
Yes.
empty, or at least you have a possibility of doing the emptying. And I've had people work with that Yoga Nidra CD for months or actually measured in years, and then write to me and say, I've been doing this thing for a long time and most every day, and finally something happened that is unbelievable to me, and I don't understand it, but I want to try to explain it to you what happened. And it involves this thing that we're talking about. Anyway, the reason we dragged over to Pratyahara is to say that the actual real idea, hello Nidhi, that the actual real idea of Pratyahara is very subtle. Pratyahara, the withdrawal of the indriyas, is not just plopping down on your butt and say, I'll close my eyes and I'll close the front door of the house, and now I've done Pratyahara and I've turned off the television. That's Pratyahara. Pratyahara is very, very much more subtle than that. Our internet just blipped there for a moment. So, but I think we did not.
Hi, Hashim.
Hello, Hashim.
Hi.
And so, anyway, what was that? What did I just...
the reason I then thought
Well, I don't want to lose my track.
You were saying that it's very, very subtle.
Yeah, the Pratyahara is very, very subtle. But the grosser level of dealing with these thoughts is why we have to do tapas.
Thank you. That's what I was
If we just plop down on our butt and we say, I'm going to do Pratyahara, there's a very good chance we're not going to do Pratyahara, and we may convince ourselves that we are. We may end up spending many years, missing the subtlety of these points. And so the gross level of tapas, it means riding through the storm, the fire. That tapas means fire. There is an emotional fire. We all can experience this relatively easy if we're willing to be honest with ourselves. Try to stop any habit that you have, whether the habit is a constantly jabbering mind or chocolate or whatever it is, olive oil, Rojo mentioned earlier.
There was one comment of Adi that we didn't go through, but that reminded me. Like this is, sometimes I notice that my mind wants to see, hear, read more about the path of sadhana and forget to practice. Sounds so gay to know more, but then that can also be a trap.
That's exactly right. And
yes.
Note that what Adi said here, when the mind wants to see, hear, read, another way of restating what Adi just said there is that the mind, as manas, naturally wants to employ the indriyas.
And even if it's related to practice, that can be a trap too.
Even if it's related to practice, yes. My mind just, wants to pick up this book and read some more.
Yeah, I fear. I don't know if he's still here, but I thought at least that should be remembered that he said that, because it was a good comment.
Are you still with us, Adi? If he left, he'll come back and watch the whole. He's probably here somewhere, right? But yes, anyway, it's the habit of the mind. So and books are good things, but books are, yes, exactly, that's my point. Yeah, books, my favorite example of that is a cookbook. A cookbook is meant to be used in the kitchen, where you look at the recipe and you make lunch, and then you eat the lunch. The cookbook is not meant to, you don't go into the library and sit down and say, boy, I'm going to read a good cookbook today.
Because that's going to steal my hunger.
That's going to, you just do that. And so when we read one of these books, at least where I'm coming from, when we get together and we have a satsang and we go through these books together, the point is that we're looking at the cookbook of how to do the internal self-awareness practice. It's not just about memorizing more data out of more books.
It happens to me.
Yeah, it happens to me too. Yeah, this is how minds work. We do it in slightly different ways with different information. Somebody's hooked on Netflix and somebody else, the television shows, somebody else is hooked on Pokemon, somebody else is hooked on Facebook, so, you know, and on and on.
And who knew that Samyama books could even be a distraction?
And they are, but
I
they
know,
are.
that's
Well,
what
he
it-
knew it.
Yeah. There's only one book to study.
That's right. Swami Rama has pointed out himself. There's only one book to study, and that's the book that you yourself are.
The manuscript.
We read the other books, manuscript that you are. We read the other books as cookbooks so that we can learn how to do the inner cooking. And part of the cooking is called tapas. It's where the habit pattern of being addicted to the indriyas is burning up. And that's the tapas. Now, we also can note that if we skip the preparation for tapas, then the tapas is not actually tapas, it's just worry and fear and frustration over life.
There's not a level of contentment.
Because there's no level of contentment. Why? Because maybe we skipped over the yamas.
Yeah.
Great example. First yama is ahimsa, do no harm. We read a quick thing on ahimsa, nonviolence. You say, well, I'm not a murderer. I'm not in prison for beating people up, and I don't do mean things like that. So it's as if we say, well, ahimsa, violence, check mark. I've got that one. I don't do that. I'm okay.
I'm not really lying.
But yet, if you're a parent and one of your children is sick at night and is sitting there laying in bed crying, now I know you love your children, but after so much, it's irritating, isn't it? I mean, parents will tell me this. I've heard them say this. You know, what's it like at 3 o'clock in the morning? You have to go to work in the morning and there's your baby and they're crying.
Mommy, I can't see.
Mommy, mommy, mommy. And so what do? You feel frustrated. This is a natural human response.
One of the attitudes to cultivate.
Yes. And so these preparation things work together. They work together. And in terms of the presentation, she just mentioned the attitudes. The attitudes, the 4 attitudes that Patanjali recommends are in Chapter 1, Sutra 33 of Chapter 1. Tapas is not introduced until Chapter 2, Sutra 26. It doesn't matter exactly where it is. That's not the point I'm saying. Is that the cultivating certain attitudes are foundation. They are long before we even start into the 8 rungs of Ashtanga Yoga, before we get to rung 2, part 3 of rung 2, which is tapas. So there's preparation that comes before it. And I used ahimsa as an example. Matri remembered that even in Chapter 1, the cultivation of attitudes, like of friendliness and compassion and all like that.
Olya's writing, I'm aware sometimes practice can serve as an escape from the action I need to take that I am avoiding. My tapas lately is to take action. Yeah.
We do the actions in the world, do the actions, and then that helps us then when it's time to ride through the emotion, then we can ride through the tapas, and then the tapas doesn't eat us up.
So yeah, going to the cave, even if it's in your own house, it can be escaping.
Another one that I think is so important is brahmacharya, the 4th yama, which often gets translated as sexual celibacy, which says like, oh, well, I'm supposed to give up my sex life. You know, no, that's not what it says. You got to look subtly at what it says. It says brahmacharya means cultivating constant awareness of Brahman. What is that? That means the oneness. That, wait a minute, there's one world, there's one earth, there's one universe, and we may have different religious opinions, spiritual opinions, metaphysical ideas about this, but the concept is that Brahman is saying everything and every person emerges out of one ground reality. Here's one of my favorite examples. Think of political figures. We have a little bit of insanity going on right now. Everybody in the world knows it in the USA over a presidential election. And without taking sides in this, everybody in the country seems to have polarized. You like this side and you hate the other side. Well, look at how distracting it can be to be in hate of the other side. That's the bad person. My person's the good person. They're the bad person.
And not neutrality.
And where is the part that is remembering Brahman, that says, wait a minute, my person and the other person all arose from the same one non-dual reality. If you want to put it in theistic terms, it's reminding yourself, wait a minute, that person at the core of his or her being is God. The core of me is God. The core of him is God. The core of her is God. And let me cultivate the awareness of that. That's brahmacharya. And the principle behind that in relation to what we could call overindulgence of sexual desires, if you put it in sexual terms, is that if you're constantly thinking about God, just to borrow the theistic word, if you're constantly thinking about God, then you're not going to spend quite so much time thinking about your sensual desires. That's the principle.
Nor would you really have to train your senses because, I mean, it could end with brahmacharya. The whole thing,
but remember,
right?
the idea is that they go together. They go together. So the yamas come before the niyamas. The tapas that we're talking about is number 3 of the 5 niyamas of the second rung. And so this stuff is foundation for that. Well, if I've done a reasonably good job of cultivating the awareness of unity consciousness in daily life, I'm riding my bicycle or car down the road and here comes a person that does something stupid in front of me, and I'm remembering that he too is divine, or all of those ways that if we're succeeding in doing that reasonably well, that helps us feel the contentment, the santosh, which is the second niyama, and then that helps me be able to ride through the emotional storm, the tapas of training my indriyas. But if I've skipped over the ahimsa, the non-harming, and I've skipped over the truthfulness, and I've skipped over the brahmacharya, for example, if I've skipped over those things and say, no, I'm just going to do tapas, I'm going to withdraw my senses, I'm going to jump way over here and do number 5, pratyahara, withdraw my senses, and I'm going to go straight to samadhi, well, good luck. For most of us, it doesn't work that way. So there's a sequence to all of this. Foundation, yamas and niyamas. Thank you for reminding us yesterday and today. It kind of turned out that way, didn't it, Nellie? These things seem to cluster together. It wasn't intentional as far as I know. Maybe Matrice set us all up for that because it was about a week ago. I said, well, what do you think we ought to do next week? She said, tapas. And she didn't know that we were going to do tapas until this morning, just a few minutes before we pushed the go button. She had forgotten about it. She says, so what are we going to talk about today? And I said, tapas. That's what you asked for.
And another thing is that the fire that comes on the path, I think we cannot say it enough, that is part of it. And so in a way it's a good sign if the fire comes because the light is right behind it, and how to keep up the longing. And
it's not fun. It's not the
fun.
Fire, the burning of the fire is not fun.
No.
We think, oh, I'm going to learn to meditate and I'm going to just be constantly blissed out. Well, at some point that starts to happen, but that's down the road.
And
along the way.
Here comes your bullshit.
And here comes your bullshit and your habits, and this is just the way it works. It's called path of fire and light. We want the light, but we say, I want to skip the fire part. I just want nice light. I want to see the light of God. Well, the light of God is what burns up your ego. Sorry, that's just the way it works, and that's not dependent on any particular religion or spiritual tradition or meditative tradition. Seems to be a universal truth.
And so here we are as Arjuna, fighting that inner battle, encountering all our stuff because the light is behind it. So that's
and the light is behind it. And sort of sitting right in the middle of this process to keep us on track as we're going long in time. We probably should end soon. But this tapas principle is very useful. They're all important. They're all useful because it is a systematic process. We want to be able to have an understanding of the whole systematic process. And so this tapas is sitting there. If we learn how to ride through the emotional storm of training our indriyas, then when it comes time to sit and be quiet and literally withdraw inward from the indriyas, that we have a better chance of being able to do it. And to do the tapas, we need contentment, and to do the contentment, we need to do the other things that come before that.
Debbie's asking, good question. Can you fan the flames and speed the process up? I know one way how to do that. That is to be very close to him.
Yeah, you hang out around people like us. I mean, it really is true. Thank you, Ma. Yeah. I mean, it really is true.
Because it says right through the bush.
Yeah, well, it's not about me. It's the process.
It's guru.
I can't tell you. It's guru, but at least in this tradition, guru is not a person. No. If I say I'm guru, then I'm screwed up. Guru
then I'll do like this.
Guru is the divine grace. It's the grace of God if you say it in theistic terms, which is all okay. But just come close and the fire's going to burn. You know, I and many, many other people found that it was sometimes very hard to be around Swami Rama because you just felt constantly like you were seen. And it would just be, you know, your own bullshit would just sort of be around. So, yeah.
And I also said that I had a hidden agenda that I just look forward to seeing you and John again, Debbie.
Yeah.
But it is true. So.
But it's nice. It's pleasant. What I know both of us try to cultivate with people. I think she actually does a better job with it than me. I try to cultivate a personal relationship. I care for people. And so we try to have that warmth. And so when somebody visits here, we try to have it be warm and friendly and loving and sit quietly together in the meditation room. But I guess it was 6 months ago, I put a little note on the door of
I really like that.
The doors that go into the meditation room. And I called it Shakti Furnace, oven.
The oven of Shakti.
The oven of Shakti. And yes. I put under it the path of fire and light because of the realization that this is what happens. If you just walk into this place, in some sense you're walking into the fire because that's what this place is about. Now to me, what it's about is the light. But I have ridden through decades of my ego level bullshit. And so... You know, I'm not saying it's all gone, and if I can borrow a quote from Swami Rama, I've heard him even say, you know, I still have a few little things under the edge of my carpet. You know, you sweep the floor, and under the edge of the carpet, that last little piece of dirt, you sweep it under the edge of the carpet. So it's not about being a perfect personality, but along the way, you know, it gets easier and easier and easier. So for me, it really, really is more about light than it is fire. But it wasn't always like that, and it just comes with the territory. And so believe it or not, Debbie, I think you know this. I find it just impossible to imagine how can this happen. But some people actually find me irritating.
I was trying. I can't do anything out of sight for you to.
She's trying to put me out of sight, but you're sitting too close. Yeah. You know, people have actually told other people that I'm a cult leader and that I'm trying to use people and manipulate people and all like that. Well, that's just the way minds and egos operate. It's just the way it works. But at least I have the good fortune of being a little bitty guy, so I'm kind of invisible. We're kind of invisible. Nobody's taken me and literally nailing me up on a cross so far. They haven't hung me yet. They haven't burned me at a stake yet. But it's fire, you know, it's the fire.
The willingness to sit in it, the allowing and to show up even if
that's tapas.
That's tapas. Not being only here, but it's also on your own meditation sheet. To really, you know, show up at the right, like we say it, once a day is a time for the, you know, a meeting with tradition. Like once a day I set my meditation time, and every day, no matter what happens, I'm going to show up.
Thank you, Nellie.
You're not a... Yeah, just the right person to come for. But so every day to
thank
show
you, Nellie.
Up at that same time.
But that's not to say you've never felt irritated at me, is it? I'm always sweet, right?
Yes, always, Amity.
I am always sweet. It's just
always.
Anyway, tapas, ride through the storm.
Yes.
That's the piece. Just keep showing up here, there, wherever you're showing up. Show up on your own meditation seat and observe the fact that sometimes you just don't want to do it. And when you don't want to do it, what is it you want to do? You want to go play Pokemon. You want to go check your Facebook. You want to go watch a TV show. You want to do anything.
Read another Swami Rama book.
Read another book. Yes, read it. You want to go read another book. You just don't want to sit here and be quiet. Well, who is it that doesn't want to do that? It's the composite of Antakarana, of Manas, Chitta, Ahamkara, and Buddhi, all working together in a constellation that is called me. And I don't want to sit here and be quiet. I say I want self-realization, and in those moments it's like, hell no. I want to do anything other than that. I want to go use my indriyas. I want to go do something.
Anything.
Anything.
Yes.
And just recognize that.
And
the willingness to be able to say, no, I need to go sit here anyway and ride through this.
Yeah.
That is the willingness to face tapas. That's tapas.
Yes.
So tapas is part of the journey. It's a nice thing. It's fire.
Yes.
Enjoy the fire because it's also going to provide the light. Okay?
And make the goal.
We went pretty long here today. I didn't, but anyway.
There was some fire here, Swami.
Well, we had some fire going on, and I want to thank those of you for typing stuff in there. That really helps. It really helps. It makes this a bit more of a dialogue. I think this is a nice way of communicating, and it's something I quite look forward to these Sundays and doing this, and it's getting richer and richer, and you're the ones who are making the difference by figures typing in and communicating back. And
so see everyone next week, same time.
See you next Sunday, same time. Now that we have changed time zones. And so I don't know what we're going to talk about. It'll come up, or Matri will tell me, or one of you will say, can you guys talk about so-and-so? Remember, this whole thing is holographic. You can dive in anywhere in the process and have a conversation, and you still end up with the whole picture.
There's only one topic in that sense, is that how
and this afternoon, in what's now 5 hours from now, we're going to be online with the GoToMeeting and the screen sharing, and we're working our way through the Tripura Rahasya, and I presume the preacher will be with us to do the reading of Tripura Rahasya. And that is an incredible text. Most of you, I think, know it a little bit. If you don't know Cybermaya Kosha, yeah. If you're not familiar with the Tripura Rahasya, it is a tremendous, tremendous text. And, it's poetry, but it's storytelling poetry about Divine Mother, which is Tripura, the one who dwells in the 3 cities of gross, subtle, causal, the 3 cities of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, etc. It's a tremendous thing.
Leela does a superb job.
And Leela has a lot of fun and passion in doing the reading in there. And she's been at this stuff a long time and always had some good stories to add to it. And so join us if you're free. 5 hours from right now, okay? So thank you for visiting. Thank you for playing. Enjoy your tapas. It's just part of the journey. No big deal. It's just tapas. Just fire. Ouch. Ooh, ow, ow, ooh, ooh. Say goodbye, Rojo. Say goodbye, Mom.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Buenos tacos, Scott. Bye-bye.